All right, BIC podcast episode 58. We have completed the conference championships and now a week of sadness. And then the final game at the end of the season. Only The Rock and the UFL can save us. But in the meantime, while we're waiting for that, I suppose we can talk about the games that were. Unfortunately, not so great for Brandon, but it is what it is. We'll talk about the games that were. Although, it could have been worse. It could have been Detroit, because now we know that they will be riding in sadness, not riding in triumph. But on the upside for Brandon, he did get a grail card. So we'll chat a little bit about that and talk a little bit about the collecting side of things. Yes, we will actually talk some cards on this episode of the BIC podcast. Actually talking some cards in there. How quaint. How interesting. How different.
For a card,
so first, I'll start off with you, Eric.
Weird.
Crazy.
I know. Like, who would have thought? It's craziness. Eric, how's it going this evening?
Not too awfully bad. Not too awfully bad. I did make a fool out of myself yesterday on a live that you did, which we can touch on if necessary. If not, we can save the shenanigans for Friday when I get.
We can do both. We can definitely touch on it. Yeah, we will come back to it on Friday.
Berated mercifully, so mercifully, yeah.
There will be no mercifulness. There will be mercilessness. I got lots of mercilessness. We will get a taste, an appetizer of mercilessness, and then the main course shall be rolled in on Friday. But that is the
I'm looking forward to that.
It will be wonderful. Brandon, how are you?
I'm doing okay for what happened. It is what it is. It's football, right? Yeah, somebody's got to lose. So I'm wearing my Stars hat proudly. We lost the conference championship there too. And I just have to look at it as at least my teams don't suck. I mean, Eric didn't even have a shot in the playoffs. So, it could have been worse.
Yeah. Well, like I said, it's been a big mixed bag weekend for you. Like, it wasn't all bad. We'll get to the grail card here in a little bit. So it wasn't all bad. There was a little bit of positive, a little bit of negative. But let's start off with the Baltimore game. We'll start off with the AFC Championship game since that one happened first, and then we'll talk about the NFC Championship and kind of the disaster that resulted in that a little bit. And then, like I said, we'll move into talking about a cards thing in a little bit. So AFC Championship, that one I did not do a live stream for. I did one for the NFC, so we'll come back to that in a minute. But for the AFC Championship game, was looking forward to it because the question going in was really what it came down to was, can Kansas City, who's shown weakness, who's had some issues, can they figure out a way? And, we were joking about it beforehand, but from last week's episode, as soon as Eric talked about, the Taylor Swift and the wailing and the moaning, and as soon as I thought about the Schadenfreude possibilities, I was like, there is no other place that I could possibly go. Like, the bullshit is real. Let's go Kansas City. Not the way we expected it, though. In the same vein of a lot of the games we've seen, not in the way we expected it. This was not, we had drawn it up. This is not the way we figured we would get here. It was a 7-point game by the end of it. Not a great game for Lamar. Not a great game for a lot of the Baltimore game planning, scheming. It's something that I was doing a little bit of texting back and forth with Brandon. And as we were chatting about it, they got away with, so I want to start with you, Brandon. They got away with their normal identity. We were chatting a little bit before we hit record. My opinion, and feel free to elaborate your thoughts, I feel like the moment almost became too big, which is weird for a coaching staff that does have some experience, but it's almost like they stuff wasn't quite working. And then all of a sudden they immediately deviated from the game plan and just couldn't adjust.
Yeah. I mean, I said it, at halftime. I was very frustrated. And I was, making some posts in the Discord. Not taking anything away from Kansas City. Congrats to them. But I feel as a fan, it's even more frustrating when you feel your team beat themselves. And that's exactly how I viewed that game yesterday. There was so many undisciplined mistakes, unnecessarily penalties, and the offense, like you kept hearing, even the announcers, you kept hearing them say, this is the best run team in the league. Lamar's a dangerous weapon. Gus Edwards needs to get the ball. You kept hearing all of these rumblings, and all they kept doing was throwing the ball. And even in instances when there wasn't a good option to throw the ball to, instead of using his legs, and there was like several plays, I distinctly remember there would be a hole, and you would see green that he could have ran. And for some reason, and I kind of like the way I said it before we hit record, it felt like there was this like invisible barrier at the line of scrimmage that Lamar couldn't cross because he wasn't taking off running like he normally did. I don't know if mentally he wanted to win that game with his arm to prove something or like what the issue was, but it was like they were allergic to running the ball yesterday. They just weren't doing it. Even though when they would, they were getting some yardage. They went away from what got them to that game. And that was very sad to see. You know, you live by the sword, die by the sword, and they just said, let's go a different direction. And it just didn't make any sense. And it was very frustrating. So,
So, Eric, before I get your thoughts, one thing I'll throw out at you, and then if you want, expand on it a little as well. My thought is always, if for whatever reason the run game isn't working, kind of to Brandon's point, you're getting away from your identity. But I always felt like a good elixir. If you really want, if for some reason you have it in your head that the conventional run game, maybe you don't, maybe you see something you don't like. That's where I feel like the short, high percentage passes are kind of a, effectively a handoff, but like a long handoff. So instead of just a standard one, you're at least moving it to one side of the field to the other, forcing the defense to shift around a little bit. There are little ways that quarterbacks can still accomplish a pass, but then go for yards after catch. Let the guy get a little bit ahead of steam, run, use motion. Like, again, I won't pretend to be sitting here doing X's and O's on anybody, but I'm just saying, the game of football, and that's why it was a lot of fun doing a lot of the live streams. It's like, guys, I don't watch all 22 video. My own acknowledgement is very casual, but it's not like the tactics of football are that complicated. Misdirection is a thing. It's something you can do. Now, there's a bunch of ways to do it. The coaches can come up with a lot of verbiage and things that can make it sound really complicated, but it's just misdirection. They think you're going to see this, and instead you go over here. You make them go this way, and then all the action is happening over there. But that's on the coaching staff. It's on them to have developed that game plan, to have that in their back pocket. If something goes wrong, plan A doesn't work, what's plan B? And it felt like they had plan A, and as soon as plan A didn't work, we're just going to keep trying plan A and hoping that eventually it works. And I don't think that happened.
Yeah, you're 100%. And Brandon is also correct in his analysis, in my opinion, is for a professional football team to be successful, you cannot just have, be a one-trick pony. You have to be able to continue to mix it up and keep the defense on their toes. You got to have a good run game, so you're able to then throw. Because you run, they're focused on that. All of a sudden, you can let one go. It's the same thing with the throw. If you're a throwing team, you better make sure that you have some running plays in there, because those are going to go for big yardage, because they're going to think you're just a throwing team. That's why I love the screenplay so much, because you're running back and you're tight end, or you're running back and come off, and that screws everything up, like you're saying. It really gets people thinking that they're going this way, but you're really going this way. But if you don't have those three tools in your pocket and you're a one-trick pony, you're not going to win. So, like Brandon was saying, if all they're going to do is throw now, you're the best running team in the league. You might have the most mobile quarterback in the history of the league. But now he's just going to throw. Well, that's not going to win you games.
Well, and to touch on something that both of you just said, Carlos mentioned screen or short passes. You mentioned mobile quarterback. What is something we have seen time and time again that the Ravens are exceptionally well at? And that's the read option. They weren't running it. And what can you do out of the read option? You can do the read option fake, where it looks like you're going to, and that throws even more with the misdirection that you guys mentioned. You're confusing them. Is the running back getting the ball? Is Lamar going to run? Or is he going to throw a short pass out to the wide receiver or the running back himself? And they just weren't doing any of it. Something that I've seen them be so good at they completely just like erased off the whiteboard and said, nope, we're not doing this week. We're going to be a completely different team from what got us here. And we're just going to stick to it. Like you said, you got plan A. There was no plan B. It felt like there was no plan B. And they weren't out of the game at any point. They were in the game the entire game. But it was like they never changed what they were doing to get that momentum rolling. So I don't know. It was, and then you flip it on the other side of the field with the defense, and there was just way too many undisciplined plays and penalties and everything else. It was just frustrating as a fan.
Love or hate the Belichick era in New England,
and I do.
When those teams were successful, they were the number one reason they were successful is what they called the Patriot way, which was these were the most disciplined team. This was the most disciplined team in the league. They didn't take dumb penalties. They didn't make dumb mistakes. That is what won them games, those close games. You know, they didn't get a 15-yard, unsportsmanlike conduct, penalty to lose the game. That's not what the Patriots did back then. And when I was watching that game yesterday and watching them kind of throw the game away over all these stupid penalties, I'm like, that right there is what makes Bill Belichick one of, if not the greatest coach in the league's history, is because when those Patriots were running, smooth as silk, they would never have made mistakes like that and taken penalties like that. It was against the culture. The teammates would have held you accountable. That was the number one rule, that you played smart football, especially when the game was on the line. And Baltimore did not do that. They just fell apart. And I was mostly surprised by Kyle Van Noy getting a penalty because he's a Patriot.
I don't feel that I'm not going to say there wasn't a flag that should have been thrown. I'm not going to say that. I don't think it should have just been on the Ravens. I think that could have went like offsetting, both of them. But I don't think Van Noy should have been the number called, because he literally just he had literally just walked up there, and then the flag's thrown and it's on him. And I was like, yeah, I don't think it was him that should have been called for, but his number was the one called. But
he was in the middle of what little skirmish that was going on there, and
I think he came to break it up or to like get his guy, and unfortunately was the last man into the picture, and so the ref called him.
He threw a shove. He was like the third man in, and that's what they see. They never see the first one. They might not see the second one, but they're gonna see the third one. And that's just, I was surprised it was him, coming from the New England organization, where they're just taught not to get involved in that type of stuff.
Well, the problem is, Eric, he didn't do the Cardinal thing. And I've tried to teach folks that watch the Friday nights, observe, take notes, because I've shown you how to do this. Much like you declare an eligible receiver, what he needed to do is before he set it foot and even came within proximity, he needed to declare man of peace. If he just declared man of peace before man of peace, the referee's like, oh, wait, man of peace, leave him alone. It's cool. Everything's fine. Don't worry about it. Man of peace. It's fine. But he didn't do that. You have to declare first, Eric. You have to declare it so everybody knows, and then it's cool.
I'm sure that's what he learned in New England, is to declare the man of peace, and
it worked. It worked for them for many years. A lot of declarations of man of peace.
And next thing you know, there's a penalty that potentially cost them the game. So,
and just for all of the listeners and viewers and all of you out there, that was a very smart thought process for Roquan Smith on, we're not going to stop him. It's 1st and 5. So let's just go ahead and get a 5-yard penalty and be off sides to, get the ball 1st and 10, start the clock, whatever. Don't destroy the guy when he's getting ready to get in his 3-point stance, because the referee is not going to like that. You just took 15 for no reason.
All you had to do is just fall forward over the line of
He
scrimmage.
just had to touch him.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Just had to touch him.
Offsides. Tweet. You lit him
I mean, it was a good thought, but don't blow the man up.
Yeah.
That was dumb football.
Like I said, Brandon, like I said a moment ago, if they had just thought the problem is that we're not in the right frame of mind. And you know what I find now? It's not always doable. It's not always easy to do. But what I find gets me in the right frame of mind, calms me down, puts me in the right frame of mind, be a man of peace. Is when I get to a chance to enjoy my cards, maybe open some packs. Maybe this is what the Baltimore Ravens needed. They could have used some packs. They could have gotten it from a place like AMG Collectibles. Friend of the channel, friend of the podcast. Look at that beautiful segue. Man of peace. Man of peace. And AMGcollectibles.ca and the AMG Collectibles YouTube channel, they embrace the doctrine of man of peace. And not only man of peace, woman of peace, anybody of peace. Peace for everyone. But you can check it out. And on the YouTube channel, we're going to talk about some more stuff that came in the store. I see some pretty sweet stuff, and including some UFC cards. Less peace, but still the concept's there. The premise is there. There's some man of peace before we start. So
yeah, there's no peace in UFC, I don't think.
There's some wonderful peace. There's some wonderful peace, Eric, and there's some zen after the fact. We're martial art, Eric. Martial art. Get with it, man.
Okay.
But the point is that you can check out the YouTube channel where we talk about a lot of things that are coming to the store, and also talk about some of the topics related to what's going on with the cards and then new products and everything. And we're going to have another episode upcoming here where we got some pretty cool stuff I've got a chance to see, and there's a nice variety, very similar to a couple of weeks ago. So that'll be a lot of fun, and you can check that out. So you'll see the links to that stuff in the description. You can check out the YouTube channel and AMGcollectibles.ca. Thank you to AMG Collectibles for supporting the channel and this podcast. Now, one other thing I wanted to touch on real quick before we shifted over to the other game is that, so bring it back seriously here for a moment, kind of touching on what you guys were talking about, is that I do think one thought that kind of struck me, and again, we could talk about the penalties thing a little bit more, but I want to specifically focus in on kind of the idea of why they got away from their identity. And I think Brandon touched on it a little bit, and I'm kind of curious if maybe, to your point, is maybe Lamar and those guys are like hell-bent because Lamar is the consensus to most likely win the MVP, which would be his second MVP award, which is tremendous. Obviously, very excellent for still relatively a young man early in his career. 2 MVPs. That's fantastic. And I actually have a list of multi-time MVP winners, and there's a point I'm going to make here in a second, but I want to get to that in a second. But Lamar has always had this little knock that it's always treated like, well, you're a quarterback, but are you really a thrower of the ball? And it almost feels like both times he's won an MVP, it's almost like they're trying to prove a point. And the problem is in proving the point, it gets away from the thing he does really well that allows him to be that dynamic player. And in that way, he actually hurts himself by trying to do something. But it also puts him in a situation where now, if it goes the way we expect, and he wins the MVP, now he's in a bit of dubious company. And I'll explain what I mean here. And multiple time MVPs is a relatively short list, and I'm actually going to go over it with you. But it's an illustrious list. There are some tremendous players here. To win MVP is fantastic, but to win multiple MVPs is elite. It's top tier. But the knock on Eli Manning for many years was that you're a 2-time Super Bowl winner and you won against the Patriots and all that. But then people were like, well, is he a Hall of Famer though? And you're like, well, 2 Super Bowls. It's kind of tough to say that you're not but then you look at the regular season stats and you look at the rest of it. It's like, but is he though? And all the years that didn't make the playoffs with the Giants, but then he won 2 Super Bowls. So the 2 Super Bowls kind of looms a large over everything else and gives him that extra. Without 2 Super Bowls, he's not even in the discussion, even though obviously he had a long career with the New York Giants. But the list of multi-time MVPs, I'll go over it with you right now. So the list includes Steve Young, Super Bowl winner, obviously, with San Francisco, Kurt Warner, Super Bowl winner, and also had a Super Bowl run with Arizona Cardinals. So had another crack at a Super Bowl with a different organization. Almost became the first quarterback to win the Super Bowl with 2 different organizations. Came back close, and they were close. It was a very competitive game. They were very close in that game. Joe Montana, 2 MVPs. Obviously, the GOAT before, the faux GOAT, the other guy. Yeah, 4-0 though in Super Bowls. 4-0, which to me is that to me is a fantastic record. And he decimated some teams. Some of those games were not competitive at all. They beat some teams down. So obviously he's got that going for him. Patrick Mahomes. We talked about him a little bit, and we're going to talk in a moment about what the potential legacy could be, how the Super Bowl could play into it. So that'll be very interesting. Johnny Unitas, legend of the game. There's another one. 3-time MVP. So that's a 3-time MVP here. Then we got patron saint of this channel, of course, personal favorite. We got to appreciate. I actually didn't have the overlay on, but now I do. The gazing eyes are upon us once again.
Guy.
Absolutely. Not so fellow, but 3-time MVP nonetheless. 3-time MVP. Pretty good. Jim Brown, legend. 3-time MVP. Also, he's not a quarterback, but 3-time MVP. You know, that's pretty darn good.
Not a small fella.
not so much. But decent actor at times. You know, right? So we got Eric's favorite guy, Tom Brady. I'll save some more jokes for Friday, but 3-time MVP as well. And we got Aaron Rodgers of the Darkness, 4-time MVP. But so far, if you pay attention, I have named other than Jim Brown, who retired before the Super Bowl era, everybody that I've named, every single one of them has won a Super Bowl or multiple. Every single one, without exception, without fail, all of them. And then Peyton Manning, 5 MVPs and 2 Super Bowls. So everybody here has hardware on top of hardware, but I didn't name like who's the weak link on this. Like these are all tremendous players. They're all fantastic. Lamar Jackson is about to join that crew with 2 MVPs plus, but the postseason doesn't look as good. It's kind of a weird, like it's almost like a reverse Eli. Eli never had the regular season accolade, but he's got the 2 rings. And then Lamar, like, isn't to say he can't, but it's weird. Like, there is no other multi-time MVP that you kind of struggle to figure out where they sit. He is about to enter, more than likely, that elite list. And it's hard to argue that he's not at the bottom of that list right now because of the postseason accomplishments. All these other guys have had moments, big moments.
So this is where my conversation piece, I think I brought up last Monday.
Sure.
You look at the matchup that just happened, all right? Mm-hmm. We could easily say that game could have went the other direction had there been lack of stupid things that happened, okay? Mm-hmm. No matter, Lamar's stat line still was pretty good. He still should have had 2 touchdown passes. The interception, that was a questionable pass interference because the dude was on the ground before the ball was caught, but neither here nor there. We're taking away all of that. But when
2 things though, there were some hideous throws in there. There were some really poor throws through the course of that game, really bad ones.
Right, but overall, sure. Stat line and everything, he could have pulled the game out, could have been in the Super Bowl, but there were some dumb things that happened. It just wasn't their day. Whatever, so be it. Mm-hmm. But as I mentioned, or brought the question up, look how long it took. You mentioned Peyton Manning and his multiple MVPs. 5 MVPs?
5 MVPs, yep.
It took him a while to get over the hump and beat Tom Brady and win a Super Bowl. So I'm not going to say that Lamar can't put that on his resume before the
and I didn't say he couldn't. I was very clear. Yeah. I was very clear that is not to say that he cannot.
Right now, he is go ahead, Eric. What is it? To be fair.
To be fair.
Had Lamar not blown out the 49ers, I don't know that he would have even been the front runner for the MVP this season. Mm-hmm. So that game, I think, kind of catapulted him into the conversation of being the front runner when they laid it to the 49ers the way they did there. There's a lot of competitive young quarterbacks in the league right now to win to, and I'm not saying he's the best quarterback in the league, but the dude is arguably one of the most athletic and talented, not just quarterback-wise, players that we've ever seen in the league. So you have to give that to him, and just because he didn't have the hardware yet for the Super Bowl, football is a hell of a team sport, and I feel like had his defense not been so stupid yesterday, he'd be in Vegas right now. So
I wish I was in Vegas. Not related to the Super Bowl, but just I wish I was in Vegas. But one completely fair, completely valid points. The only thing I would add though is that the close games. So to be clear on this, if the 49ers had beaten him by 20 or 25 or 30 or something, whatever. It's not your day. To your point, though, they were in the game. They were within striking distance for basically the majority of that game. It never really got away from them on the scoreboard. They seemed to struggle to actually be able to get closer, but it was within striking distance. Like one big play, somebody had just broken a play, one play, and they suddenly tied at 17. Who knows? You never know exactly what would happen there. But I think, though, to be key, bringing it back to kind of Eric's dudes there in New England. The thing about it, though, is that what makes those people give Tom Brady the accolade, the whole GOAT thing. If he had gone to 10 Super Bowls, let's put it this way, Eric, yes or no? I'm going to ask you just straight up, yes or no.
Okay.
Tom Brady gets to 10. Tom Brady gets to 10 Super Bowls. If he's 3-7, is he the GOAT?
I would say so.
Losing 7 Super Bowls is the LeBron thing. That's the problem is you get credit for getting there, but the losing record would hurt. People would look at Joe Montana. He was 4-0.
0 for 4, but he went 4 years in a row. He's one of the greatest quarterbacks the NFL's ever seen.
Yeah, and that's the thing. But the problem
Brady's
is 0-4.
10. Brady has been to 10 Super Bowls. He's 7-3. If he was 3-7, getting your team to 10 Super Bowls is, I don't know if anyone will ever be the starting quarterback of 10 Super Bowls ever again.
The problem is if you have the record the way that I just described it, Tom Brady becomes Jerry West.
And Jerry West is the logo. I mean, he's
the logo, but nobody ever considered him the GOAT. He went to the finals 9 times. The problem is they lost 8. He even won a finals MVP in one of the years he lost. The problem is getting the amount of championship appearances is, again, think about what I just said. He reached the NBA finals 9 times in 14 seasons.
Yep.
Sensational. The problem is 1-8. You talk about the Jim Kelly thing. Getting 4 straight Super Bowls, tremendous. But what is the difference for people's mind? 0-4 versus even 1-3.
Okay.
Even 1-3, it changes people's perception of the very same statistic.
But
look at what they're already saying about. Look what they're already saying about Lamar. I mean, the dude hasn't really been a starter, but a handful of years now, and they're already calling him a choke artist in the playoffs. Like, he hasn't really had that many playoff appearances to be considered a choke artist, but whatever.
The reason I bring up this way, though, is that the way that again, we'll talk narratives more here in a minute when we talked about the NFC Championship as well. But the thing about narratives is that they're very strange in the way they operate, especially the way we try to stack people and try to figure out them perception wise. The issue is that getting to the championships is fantastic, but the world, basically the North American sports culture does not like losers. They would almost rather you didn't make the playoffs at all. Like my scenario I just gave you, if Tom Brady had been 3-7 in Super Bowls, the argument for him to being GOAT, there would be people in New England who would make that argument. Everybody else would be like, no, Joe Montana. You didn't win 4. You lost 7. Sorry, no. The answer is no.
But I've been wanting to say this, and I'm glad it came around to this again.
Go ahead.
There was a window of time, and I don't know if you guys are old enough to remember, but there was a window of time in the 80s that it was firmly believed that Dan Marino was the best quarterback in the world and of all time.
Mm-hmm.
He's 0 for 1 in the Super Bowl. But every record that Tom Brady and Peyton Manning and Drew Brees has broken were Dan Marino's records. He had all the records before that crop of guys showed up.
Yep.
So he was believed to be the GOAT at 0-1. So because I grew up in that time, and the argument was it Marino or Montana, and it was Marino because of the numbers, but Montana because of the Super Bowls. And listening to that fight for a long period of time, if someone's 3-7, they got titles and numbers. So yes, I think Brady would still be called the GOAT by the majority of people at 3-7. Because I grew up in the GOAT argument was the GOAT.
Is the GOAT argument amongst all sports one of the silliest conversations that exist in sports? Because you also have to connect with, first of all, I said it earlier, football is a team sport. So you can say that Brady is the greatest quarterback of all time or whatever because of how many Super Bowls he won. He didn't do it alone.
Correct.
And you also have to look at the fact, and this is the reason why I ask, is the GOAT conversation one of the silliest ever? Because who did Brady win almost all of his Super Bowls with? Belichick. Who did Jordan win all of his championships with? Bill Jackson. Who did Kobe win his with? Bill Jackson. Who is Mahomes won his with and has so much success with? Andy Reid. Like, there is a bit of a tie there where some of these players, their success has been tied with a coach, a system, an organization that has also helped with the success that they've had.
I agree. So kind of the extension of what I was referring to. So I wanted to go down this path for a second, but the other piece of the puzzle, to your point, is also that. So talking about, like I said, I gave you the 3-7 thing just as an argument point worth discussing. But obviously the record is not that. I think it's flipped. I think it's 7-3. I think is what their actual numbers. Yeah. So obviously 7-3. That is the most Super Bowls as well. Just objectively, it's the biggest number. But the other piece of the puzzle to that discussion though is also you kind of have to look at the way it was done, because you look at the Super Bowls won and you look at the situations where it was a one-score game in that Super Bowl. For the most part, they were not like dominant wins. He didn't win any of those by 20 points or 30 points. Like, not there were some beatdowns in some of those San Francisco ones with Montana, but you didn't have that. It was Adam Vinatieri would make a kick, or they'd have to drive down the field, or Marshawn didn't run the ball. Like, it was one major play at the end of the game that changed that complexion.
Brady's best game they lost against Philadelphia. He had like 500 yards of some ridiculous number.
Yeah. So it's one of those things where it's like, it's these little tight games, these little leverage plays that happen. But because enough of them went that way, it can it can flip the script. It was 7-3, but it could easily have been 3-7. Like the beginning of his career, like they reeled off. I think it was 3 in a row before they lost the first one. I think it was I think it was 3 in a row. They won one, didn't win one a year, and then won 2 in a row, if memory serves me. And then they lost the 2 to the Giants. There was that gap. And then Marshawn didn't run the ball, and all of a sudden they're back. There's number 4, and then you reel off a bunch. The Atlanta thing could have been, if Atlanta had just held on to a 25-point lead, like there's another loss. So and they won that one, I think, in overtime. So like you have to think about this as like you had to do these things, had to happen. They had to fall just the right way. They could have just as easily fallen the other way. A couple of coin flips go against you, and it doesn't work out. So there is an element of luck to this. So that's why I was kind of that's why I brought it up in relation to the Baltimore thing that you're talking about. The fact that it was 7 points, the fact that it was within one score, to your point, a couple of things fall their way, and all of a sudden they win the game, they pass Kansas City, and the narrative flips. You beat the defending Super Bowl champions, the guy who had been to 6 AFC championships. That's a big deal. But here's what's funny. In the same vein of what we just talked about, Mahomes has been to 6 straight AFC championships. This is his 4th Super Bowl appearance, with a chance to win a 3rd Super Bowl and go 3-1 if he does 3-1, which is fantastic. But here's what's funny. There's a lot of folks when they make the pundits, when they discuss this piece, have already permanently disqualified Patrick Mahomes from ever being a GOAT. Doesn't matter if he wins 8, 9, 10 Super Bowls, because he lost to Brady. But now he could win more Super Bowls than the guy. And they're going to, well, you didn't. Well, in one of the games that they played, it was like, I think it was an offside call. It was just a little bit of luck, just right time, right place. A couple of things fell your way, and you missed out. But again, it was a close game.
That was the Buffalo game that shifted around all of the matchups, like I had discussed last week or the week before. You know, that Buffalo game was, So,
but the point is, it's by this small sliver. Again, same game. Again, it was a 1-score game. Again, if the Patriots had beaten them by 30, we're not having this discussion. But because it was that close, it was a razor's edge. One more thing goes. Well, if they had beaten them and gone to another Super Bowl, and we're actually talking about his 5th Super Bowl appearance in 6 seasons, with the possibility of winning a 4th or a 5th, then the GOAT conversation is back on. Who knows? We'll see what happens down the road. The point of those, that's how thin the line is. It's just, what's your record against this guy? What's your record against this guy? Peyton Manning's record against Brady for the majority of his career was struggle. He did win some towards the latter portion of his career. That helped. The fact that he won that second Super Bowl was major for his legacy. The difference between 1 and 2 is massive when you're splitting hairs. When you're talking about the tippy top of these guys, it's splitting hairs. It's just these tiny little things that give one guy an edge over another in your pecking order, depending on how you see it. That's what makes it kind of interesting, and that's where the narrative becomes interesting. Shame for Baltimore. It's unfortunate for them. Hopefully they can retool and figure out whatever went wrong for them. But then Kansas City gets to go on and got kind of scraped by and managed to do it. Again, this is not Kansas City's best squad. Not by any stretch of the imagination. We saw holes and weaknesses in that game. And we were talking about before we hit record. Baltimore's going to be kicking themselves. They're going to be thinking, like, they can say truthfully, well, it could have been us. 100%. There's many alternate universes where it could have been them. There's no reason they couldn't have been there.
And I mean, I'm not going to come out and, well, yeah, I will.
There you go.
Go for it. I don't know what yet, but
let's go.
San Francisco's a more complete team. They're a more balanced offensive team. Yes. You know, if Kansas City wants to run the ball, they have McCaffrey. If they want to throw the ball, they got some great targets. And, you know, I'm not going to be on the Purdy train because I still think he's young, but he's in the Super Bowl, so you can't take that away from him. So he's obviously done something right. I think they have a offense that if they throw, great. If they run, they can be good at that too. And what will Kansas City do? I think it's going to be another close game. I don't think either team will blow each other out. But again, we can segue into it. San Francisco really shouldn't have won either playoff game. So
perfectly done. Perfectly done. I did want to segue into it. Yeah, 100%. Now we can shift over. We had a good discussion. Thank you, gentlemen. A good discussion. We covered a lot of different angles there. All right, let's segue into the NFC Championship game because that one was very strange. Very strange. Although we can truly say it's pretty much Eric's fault. I'll elaborate more on Friday, but it's pretty much his fault. Like, let's be blunt. Let's be 100% truthful on this. Being not only 5% more mature, dare I say 6, 7, maybe even 8% more mature, but I must be a truth sayer. I must speaketh the truth before the gazing eyes of Brett Favre as my witness. Eric screwed these people. He did it because I'm there doing a live stream watch along with Big Scott, and I'm hanging out with Paul, and we're having a nice conversation. We're watching the game. Eric decides to join us right around halftime. You know, he's chilling out while Kathy's giving him cookies. The man had cookies. He was given cookies, and all of a sudden he's high on life. He's got cookies, and all of a sudden Eric goes, "Yeah, this is a great day for me. This is a wonderful moment. I'm going to ruin someone else's lives." And then Eric opened his big trap. And Eric, what did you say? You can paraphrase, but what did you say?
I said that
because I got footage, but I'll play that on Friday. But what did you say?
I said that I can't see Detroit falling apart with this type of lead, and San Francisco just hasn't been looking very strong. And I can't imagine that, you know, at halftime they're going to be able to fix everything that's wrong with them, and that Detroit's just going to fall apart and let it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Something.
Indeed. So, not exactly what happened. Needless to say, the line was all the way. The whole thing was skewed all the way. It was all Detroit all the time at the half. I think it was. I want to say it was 24-7. There was 17 points at the half.
Yeah.
And it was looking good, man. It was looking good. You know, the people of Detroit were clamoring on. Now, may I remind you, those of you that listened to the podcast before, we explained that when Eric questioned why people in Detroit were crying is because they're used to hardship and pain and agony. And again, starving, and they're being given a piece of bread. And this is the most important piece of bread in the world because they're starving and they're dying. And then here it is at a moment. It's like, hey guys, we're actually going to let you have a full meal. They're like, oh my God, we get to actually have a full meal with like plates and everything. And then boom, snatched. Bougie Eric walked by. He snatches the plate. He goes, no food for you. Gone.
I don't
taken
think
care of.
I don't think we're at 6% anymore.
Oh, we
I think,
are. Listen, I would be a lot harsher on Friday.
oh,
Way harsher on Friday.
I'm
Don't worry,
busy
I'll
on
have video
Friday.
footage and I'll have video footage backup and everything. Don't even worry about it. But the
I'm
point is,
busy
he
on
goes
Friday.
and he literally not only did he take Kathy's cookies, he stole Detroit Lions people's cookies. He stole their cookies from them. The starving children of Detroit are not going to go hungry because Eric needed more cookies. You selfish, selfish man.
Cookies were good.
I bet they were. I bet they were. And you needed more cookies, Eric. Like you needed more cookies. But anyway, getting away from Eric's fiendishness notwithstanding, the game completely turned on a dime. And I really do think that it really came down to kind of a lucky break for San Francisco, kind of watching in real time. I was sitting there looking at it, and I think it was a Brock Purdy overthrow. And that was the one that kind of bounced off the defender. And I think it was Brandon Ayuk who actually caught the ball. Great catch, like a great catch in the moment. Great body control, full credit to him, but it's not the way you draw it up. Purdy hadn't looked good at all in that game. Like Detroit had done almost everything you wanted from them to. Even before they went to the half, they correctly went for the field goal to get to 24 points, which was smart. Now, later on in the game, they would start making less smart moves. And I would argue that a lot of the mistakes were little pieces of bad luck combined with kind of what we talked about in the Baltimore side of things, coaching panic, kind of making little mistakes and compounding them, making bigger mistakes. And all of a sudden, all the things that were working stopped working. San Francisco, to their credit, were able to hang in there, overcome their own mistakes, and they finally stopped making their own. They allowed basically Detroit to start making, go for it on fourth down when they have opportunities to put additional points on the board. And the second half, it was a struggle to score. In the second half, San Francisco scored 37 points. Sorry, 27 points to 7. So they had been outscored, and then all of a sudden it's 27-7 in the second half. Like a complete flip on the whole thing, and 3-point game. And in the end, real quick point in the last section, and then we'll open it up and we'll talk about any piece we want. But in the last drive, when they know they need 10 points, when they were still down by 3, I felt like they still had it in them if they could just have righted the ship. But when they went down by 10, it was a dire situation. They needed to score, and they had struggled this whole time. They were able to score, but I don't know if you remember when you guys remember when you saw it. I think it was on one of the downs. They ran the ball, and they had to burn one of the timeouts. They had 3 timeouts. So at that point, you need 10 points to tie. You need 10 points. It can be a field goal first and then a touchdown. It doesn't matter the order. In that moment, your job is to preserve the clock and keep 3 timeouts. That's coaching malpractice. That's a mistake. That's a mental error, because even if on first down, you kick the ball, you get the 3 points. Oh, but you still need 7. That doesn't matter. It's better than running, eating the clock, using a timeout, and then having to do an onside kick, which is a very low percentage play right now. You maintain the clock, at least you can kick it away, and maybe you can get a stop and get a Hail Mary or something. You give yourself a chance. With 2 timeouts, you had almost no chance. With an onside kick, when the onside kick didn't work, you only had 2 timeouts. You couldn't stop the clock, and San Francisco ran it out. The Purdy party rolls on. Thanks, Eric.
I want to first, I'd like to apologize to all the Detroit Lions fans. I did not mean to do this, although I have been pumping the Purdy party heavily over the last couple of weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And I did pick, as you both did, we all of us picked the 49ers to win. I didn't mean to sink that ship.
You sure you didn't invoke any of your hockey picking powers? You're like, I'm channeling the NHL Stanley Cup playoffs. Yes, Detroit's.
I don't.
And they're like, no.
I honestly just don't understand how it's possible that everything I said, the opposite happened. I just don't. I can't explain it.
You got kind of the opposite of the Midas touch, kind of in the opposite of that. So Brandon, I covered a lot of ground there. There were a lot of pieces. I think that closing sequence, though, is indicative of where I think the coaching panicked. Like that was a mental error in a critical moment where you know what you have to do. We don't even need Eric's maths. We don't even need to pull out the calculator. You're down by 10. You know you need 2 scores no matter what. Your 2 jobs are to preserve clock and preserve your timeouts. That's your only hope you have. As a coach, you need to know that, and you need to make decisions accordingly. But please, any thoughts?
So I think one thought that I will throw out there, and this is a huge one, but it goes back to kind of some things we've referenced for several weeks now and about the NFL and the lost opportunity. Detroit had hope of making a Super Bowl, which would have been the biggest thing that the Lions could have hoped for. And they lost an opportunity. They literally had it in hand and let it slip away. Um, the questionable, going forward on fourth down, we kind of discussed that before we started recording, but I understand that was a coach's thing, and I can't be hypocritical and say, well, I'm sitting here saying my team went away from their game plan. They should have threw that out the window and done what was right. If that's what they ride and die by, then so be it. But it didn't make a lot of sense. But the key element here is Detroit good enough to get that chance again? Because it's not easy to make that conference championship. It's obviously not easy to make the Super Bowl, and Detroit, of all teams, knows this.
Mm-hmm.
And they had it. It wasn't like, oh, San Francisco was the bigger opponent. They whooped our butt. They had the game. They had the lead. They just critical errors when it mattered the most. And here it was, another, they have to be kicking themselves, a missed opportunity of something big as the Super Bowl, whether they won or lost, like for the fans to give Detroit the Super Bowl. Like, that's a huge missed opportunity. That's bigger than the Ravens, because I think the Ravens can make it back. Detroit, I'm not going to say confidently that they would make it back. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean to any Lions fans out there, but
That's
I mean,
okay.
you guys
Somebody
have
already
never
stole
been
their
there, and
cookies. It could be worse.
yeah, I mean, it's just it has to, that has to be gut wrenching. Like, that's worse than being a Ravens fan. I've witnessed the Ravens win 2 Super Bowls. Eric mentioned the Lions fan that's 90 years old that's been a season ticket holder. Imagine how huge that would have been for him.
Yeah.
That was a missed opportunity. So,
Kind of to your point, though, I would also add that I think what makes that worse is that given the position they had put themselves in after the first half, they could
yeah.
have afforded one disastrous play, one bad luck turn that would not have reversed the situation. It was compounding it with a mistake, and then another bad luck turn, and then another mistake, and then another. So it's the cascading effect of mistakes and bad luck and all these things building on each other. Because again, it wasn't a one-score game. If it's a one-score game and you fumble and the other team runs it in for a touchdown and you lose by a score, that sucks. That's terrible. But it was one play, one big play that ruined the thing. They had the opportunity. All they had to do was stay the course, doing what they were doing, intelligently running their offense and defense as they were going up until that point, and they could have afforded one disastrous play. Brock Purdy could have
Yeah,
made an amazing play and scored a touchdown, and it still didn't matter. They had more buffer than that.
they let a paper cut turn into an amputation. Is basically what it turned into. Like, they could have put a Band-Aid on it, said, ouch, that hurt, bleed a little bit. But no, they just cut it off and said, well, and it, again, it sucks my team lost. I have nothing to say. My team lost, but I've witnessed them win a Super Bowl. That would have been huge for Detroit, and they have to be asking themselves, what the hell happened? We were there. We were there. We were 30 minutes from glory land, we were there. And nope, Eric took the cookies. So.
Unbelievable.
I can see how the people obviously very disappointed in Detroit, but I would like to think that may be 24 to 48 hours, and then after that goes away, you realize that this is the most successful Super Bowl era season you've ever had, and
but you have to.
It still looks good. Maybe not Super Bowl good, but you were no longer 0-16.
But you have to also ask yourself, what does it do to Jared Goff? The dude's been to the Super Bowl and lost. The Detroit fans witnessed Matt Stafford win a Super Bowl. Detroit had to beat Matt Stafford, which they did, to continue on the path to the Super Bowl. And then they had a hefty lead against a team that they shouldn't have even been in competition with. You know, no offense, but San Francisco was the better team going into that game. And here they were. They had it, the gift handed to them, and let it slide right away. So now Jared Goff lost a game that could have sent him to another Super Bowl and took a team. Like, he would have had a statue erected. Jared Goff would have been a Detroit Sports Hall of Fame. Now,
oh yeah.
In fairness, I am friends with a Detroit fan, and he said that he had already, thanked those beings above for Michigan winning the national title. And if Detroit lost, he would weep in his sorrow, but he would be okay because Michigan won the national title in college. So they do have a consolation prize, but it still has to sting a bit.
We should check on
I think, though,
he's okay.
Yeah, well, we'll have to check on him at some point, yes. But I will say this, though. One important thing, kind of speaking to Brandon's point, though, is that, like I said, there's a lot of teams, we talked about this earlier, there's a lot of teams that are going to lament this year and the sequence of events that led to this missed opportunity for a lot of teams. But talking about the Detroit thing, I think Eric sings more because, number one, they had been deprived for so long. Number two, there is no guarantee they even get to this level again because just go look at the division. Jordan Love showed leaps and bounds improvement. That team now gets another year to potentially add more pieces, reload, and they were ahead of schedule. They played better than it was expected at that point. Well, if they get an opportunity to make some adjustments, there's weaknesses on that team. The Packers fans know this. There is weaknesses. Well, what if you strengthen those weaknesses? What if you actually field a better team that's more – the receivers have another year of work with the quarterback to get even more in sync, to get more understanding. They improve through the course of the year, but now you get another opportunity, another training camp, another chance. Plus, you got some playoff experience in your belt. That helps them. Minnesota themselves, they can reload. They can do some things. We'll see what happens with them with their quarterback situation. But Minnesota has been at least a decent team in recent years in that division. The Bears have to figure out their own situation too, but if they figure out some things, they can potentially – so the division itself could get tougher. It could be a situation where you're not going to get automatic wins in your own division. So you might have to work a lot harder just to get back to the playoffs and then figure out how to advance because everybody else is going to have a chance to get better. Teams that maybe had some injuries that hurt them, they get a chance to get better. And the NFC this year was kind of wide open. San Francisco was really the only one that people looked at and thought, and again, Green Bay showed some weaknesses in San Francisco. Detroit certainly showed some weaknesses in San Francisco. San Francisco managed to get it done in the end, but it did take a little bit of luck, and it took a little bit of Detroit imploding to get them there. So San Francisco is like, whoo, got away with one there. Okay, we'll take it.
Look, you talk about the moments and how it led up to it, and I'm trying to remember. So had Green Bay not upset Dallas, Detroit likely would have had to have played Dallas in the playoffs, right? There would have been definitely a different route because Green Bay went to San Francisco. Or would have Detroit had to play San Francisco in the next round? Because that's another scenario.
Well,
that's another scenario. They might not have even been
Dallas was the number 2 seed, if memory serves me. Dallas was the 2 seed. So whatever sequencing it would have been, Dallas would have been the 2 seed. So I think it would have been Detroit and Dallas. So I believe. So it would have. I think it would have worked out that way.
Up to look at it better.
But if memory serves me, I think Dallas was the 2 seed, so they would have probably played whoever was the lower seed. But regardless, I think so. Eric, my bottom line point is that they could get back there. But it does hurt a little psychologically the way that they lost that game when they were in control of it. It'll be a question if the players themselves can if the coaching staff and the players and everybody can reorient themselves and get back. They have to look at the positives because it makes sense for them to do that. But you know, unless they're blind, it's gonna be tough to not look over and go like, wait a minute, the opportunity was right there. The door was already creaking open. You could see the light. You just have to get closer to it, and you were reaching, and you were almost there, and then the door slams shut on you.
No, all that makes sense, and they should be disappointed, and they're gonna feel this for a while. But when you look at this franchise, which has just been so horrible for so long, I would hope that real fans of the franchise would see the the light through the darkness. Different expectations moving forward. They've had no expectations. Every single season starts and they're like, they're going to suck this year again. That's the expectation. Now this needs to be a contending foot. We demand as a fan base now that we continue moving forward and be in contention every single year. And that's an important thing.
We'll have to see, because I'll be honest, like I said, there is a comp for this. The closest comp that I can think of would be the Cleveland Indians / Guardians, because in the 90s they had two powerhouse teams that got to the World Series and lost. And then in 2016, in the somebody has to win or else World Series, it was the Cleveland Indians versus the Chicago Cubs.
Mm-hmm.
And the Cleveland Indians get the distinction of being the only team that could possibly lose to the Chicago. The Chicago Cubs haven't really done anything since, but they can sit there and go, in 2016, one time. So the question, the audience that I would ask would be would be the Cleveland Indians / Guardians fans. Like after 26, they haven't really been in contention much since then either. So it's like, when the moment is there, sometimes you just have to see it. Sometimes there is no other chance.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that's it. That was your window. Like you had to take it while it was there, and now it's gone.
Well, so I was looking at the standings, and
Sure.
had Green Bay not beat Dallas, which essentially would have, it's kind of a gift to Detroit at that moment, because Detroit would have wound up having to play Dallas, and Tampa Bay would have then played San Francisco. So because of that, Detroit wound up playing Tampa Bay, and Green Bay went to play San Francisco. So it kind of, I'm not saying Detroit couldn't beat Dallas, but Green Bay did, so who knows? But that would have been a tougher matchup, I guess.
Like I said, both teams, Green Bay also gave San Francisco a fight in their game. So it's one of those things where, like, there were no automatics. Even the teams that were thought to be favored had some struggles to get there. So let's project ahead here for a minute, and then we'll get into closing it out on a little discussion about some cards and grails in a little bit here. I did promise we're going to have some card talk in there. All right. So early predictions. We've got the Super Bowl coming up here. We'll talk something else next week, because obviously that'll be the kind of the Pro Bowl week, like football, whatever they're doing. I'm not going to worry about it too much. So we got San Francisco and Kansas City. We are where we are. So your narratives are the following. You got the Purdy party. You got maybe a coming of age. This could be his big moment. It could be a thing. And then you got Kansas City. Does the Taylor Swift Schadenfreude continue for one more time? Do we get that? Do we get the 1,018,000 shots of Taylor Swift in the box? And the whole bit. Does she perform with Usher at halftime? All these elements of it. So do we get some of this stuff? I think there'll be some eyeballs on it for sure. And I believe, based on some of the books here, it's a 1.5 point game. So San Francisco is favored by 1.5 points. So it's really close. So like it's not like this big gap for either one teams. They're giving Kansas City a lot of respect, being defending champions, and they're giving Mahomes a lot of respect. I do believe that San Francisco is the more complete team, but Kansas City's, look, Taylor Swift, Schadenfreude, Kansas City bullshit is real. If you didn't believe it before, you should believe it now. It's real. I like that Eric's shaking his head. Eric, you go first. You're shaking your head. Go on.
I am rooting for the 49ers. I will be rooting for them the entire game, no matter what the circumstance or situation. However, if I had to bet money, I would say that the Chiefs are going to win. I think Mahomes is a more experienced quarterback. with all the jokes I make about, Purdy being the GOAT, and I'll continue to make those jokes, say, on Friday. But here, being 5% more mature and in more reality-based, Mahomes is a much more, experienced quarterback in these situations, been to Super Bowls already. I'm just going to have to go with the Chiefs. But I don't want them to win. I want them to lose horribly.
Brandon, thoughts? What do you got?
I'm going to say Vegas wins. They have the Super Bowl there. You got all the betting that's going to be going on. But no, on a serious note, I'm going to look at it in a different light, and some things that we've touched on throughout this whole segment. Who can win or stay composed enough to win the games? And I'm going to go for that reason alone, San Francisco, because we talked about maybe the Ravens, possibly the players or coach, whoever the coordinators weren't in control of the game. Maybe they panicked. Maybe Detroit panicked or made some bad decisions. But we sit here and look at San Francisco. They had back-to-back weeks that likely they probably shouldn't have won, but they stayed composed enough to stay in it and pull out the victory. And you talk about Purdy, his age, he didn't have the greatest of game, but the game hasn't been too big for him, even when he was behind 24-7 at halftime. Although it might have been a gift handed to him in a sense, he stayed composed and did enough to come back, win the game, and he landed in the Super Bowl. So I'm going to go with them for that. Just simply, they didn't freak out. So I can't sit here and say that even because he's young, that the Super Bowl is going to be too big. He's shown that he can stay composed and win a football game. So
fair. Now, I struggled with this one. I went back and forth on it a bunch of times when I was looking at it. I'll be honest, what it really comes down to me, the only differentiator is that I really haven't liked a lot of the stuff I have seen from San Francisco. I've gotten a chance to see 2 straight games where they've given the other team every opportunity if they could have just seized it. I'm giving it to Kansas City only because of the experience factor. It's just the fact that if Kansas City, San Francisco, I believe, is the better team. But I also believe that if Kansas City can minimize their mistakes, if Andy Reid, now having been in this situation enough times, can basically keep his team from making the critical error. If Brock Purdy throws some wonky throws, I feel like Kansas City will catch a couple of them. And in the same vein, I believe that if they start making some critical mental errors, which San Francisco has made, and give that opportunity, if Kansas City starts building up a lead like that, I don't think they'll surrender it in the same way. I think they will plan out a game plan. Andy Reid will pick a series of play calls that will allow them to maintain that lead or even possibly expand it. So I don't think it's going to be a shootout from any perspective, because I don't think these teams at this point right now, they're kind of ground down. I don't think they're able to do that kind of an aerial. I think it'll stay potentially tight, but if it's a squeaker, we go back to the New England thing, right? So for our current era, Kansas City is kind of taking the mantle of being that team that just kind of hangs in there. Again, this is not the best Kansas City Chiefs team we've seen. But if they win, if they manage, the narrative will be by hook or by crook, they found a way. And that'll be kind of interesting. And again, going back to the whole discussion about the long-term implications, that would put Patrick Mahomes at 4 Super Bowl appearances, 3 Super Bowl wins, 6 AFC Championship appearances at this time in his career, at this age. And he's really separated himself from the pack from everybody else, which is narratively interesting.
Don't forget the narrative that this would give San Francisco their 6th Super Bowl and put them in the company of the Patriots and Steelers as well. So, and I say also Kansas City, one of their starting defensive tackles, I believe it is, he's out, ACL injury. So that's going to be little weakness up front. And I say San Francisco needs to just run the hell out of Christian McCaffrey. Ride that dude to the trophy. So.
Bold. Do you think if that comes to pass, do you like Christian McCaffrey then as Super Bowl MVP as a dark horse pick? Because if they go that route, he would make sense if he can put up that kind of a performance.
I mean, yeah. If they go that route, like hell, I thought the Ravens should have ran the ball and they didn't. So who knows? Maybe the San Francisco throws 50 times and runs 4. You know, you never know. But McCaffrey's also a good wide receiver out of the backfield. So, there you go.
Yeah.
I did hear my buddy said something about, and this is something to keep an eye on. He's a big Detroit fan, so he was very in tune with the game. He said something about he's wondering if there could be an injury to McCaffrey, though, because he landed awkward on a play and they were like working on his neck or something. So he said that's a story to keep an eye on. So I don't know.
Right.
I did not catch that game, but
I don't recall. I might have seen a play, but it kind of is blurry to me right now. I'd have to think about it. But we'll check out the injury report. We'll kind of see how things play out. And they've got an extra week off, so it's kind of prepare themselves. So we'll see. With an extra week of preparation, everybody's going to get a chance to reset. Reset from the games and then figure out what they want to do. They should come prepared. If nothing else, both teams should be ready and be prepared for whatever game plan they decide to employ.
Oh, and the Kadarius Toney narrative, where apparently they're lying about his injury, that'll be an interesting report. Does he get activated in gameplay? Because that could throw a little bit into it too.
You gotta have a little bit of intrigue, gotta have a little bit of extra intrigue leading into the game, but that's fair. Sounds good. All right, so then we'll leave it be for that, and then obviously we'll see what happens in a couple of weeks. That should be interesting. I'll announce if I do anything related to it on the channel. More than likely it'll be a post game, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. For now, though, let's shift over. So while the Ravens thing didn't work out, card wise, it was a good weekend for Brandon. He was able to get himself a fancy schmancy shiny little card. Do you want to quickly summarize what it is? And you did a video on it. I will include a link to the video in the description for Bobbles and Ball Cards channel. I will include a link to the video. But high level, can you give us a little bit of the significance of the card in question as well?
Yeah. So not to go into full background or whatever, but I did a video about 4 weeks ago saying that I've kind of reflected back on myself and the hobby in general and what I had a passion for. And I think everybody really should do this because it's very easy to see different paths and maybe sometimes want to try out a new trail or something, Eric does it on his bicycle. And sometimes we go down that trail, but then looking back, we're like, why that trail wasn't that cool. And then we find ourselves leading back to the trail that we've walked many, many times. And it becomes the trail that's most meaningful. There's a passion there. And I think that's why we all are collectors to begin with, Otherwise, it'd be kind of silly. We have to have a reason. And so I've reflected on all that, and I wanted to get back on my path, my trail. And the weird thing is I did that video, and I have been literally searching for 7 years. I have talked about it. I have put this card, well, not this particular one, but an example of this card as my top baseball card, that I would love to own. And there's a lot of big time baseball cards out there. But to me, this card is significant because I have been a collector of Michael Taylor. Nobody, no huge name, but I've always been a fan of outfielders. It's why I loved Ken Griffey Jr. I played outfield when, growing up playing baseball. And when I started to become a Nationals fan in 2017, Taylor was the starting center fielder of the team. And me and my wife went to the stadium for a bobblehead game. It was our first game at Nats Park. And it just crazy enough, we've been watching the games on TV and everything, but we're standing in line and she's like, I'm pretty sure Michael just walked past us. And I didn't see him. And she's like, that BMW just pulled up, parked on the side of the street, and him and a lady got out and walked up to the team shop. And I'm like, she's crazy. And it's somebody else. Well, we're standing there, and sure enough, a few minutes later, him and his now wife walk out of the team shop and are walking back towards where his vehicle was parked. And he stopped, talked to us, took photos with us and everything. And there's just been a lot of interaction with him. He gave me that bat that's hanging on the wall back there for my birthday when he was in Harrisburg. The cleats are back there. Um, it's just been a player that when I became a fan of the team, you know, Bryce Harper was there, but I seen something in this kid, and a lot of what it was too was he wasn't a star, and he would get benched, for another player or get sent down to the minors, but he never gave up, and he just kept, he had that work ethic in him, and I went and watched him when he was in Harrisburg and got sent down to the minors and all that, and then he wound up going to Kansas City, and now he's in Minnesota, and he's a World Series champion. His defense, he doesn't have the greatest bat, but his defense, he's a Gold Glove winner. And that's not an easy accomplishment, and it's not all about hitting dingers. You got to play defense too. So seeing that in him and just the personality, seeing the type of person he is, he's also affordable. And I know I'm rambling on, but I have hunted for 7 years. I want the auto still. But when I seen this pop up, it was almost, to be honest with you, my first thought was, after doing that video, this was clearly a freaking sign. It was like, you've been hunting for this, and you've never even seen a photo, and you reset yourself. You think about what is meaningful to you, where you should have been all along. The pandemic, we all got, a little bit crazy and hazy during the pandemic, but I've reflected on it, and I realized what I should have been doing all along. And then after doing that, this pops up, and it's like, that was like a sign of, you're back where you were supposed to be, and this is your reward. It's not the auto, but this is your reward. And I reached out to the buyer, or to the seller. We worked at a number that I was happy with, he was happy with. And yeah, I mean, this isn't for everybody, because it's a player that isn't the most popular out there. But I I don't mind being outside of the box. This is like, to me, this is fun. Eric has a player that's not he's a Bruins fan. How many legendary Bruins are there? And the guy he likes isn't the most popular Bruin ever, Hal Gill is, nobody would have ever expected that, but
Hal effing Gill. Legend.
But
legend.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think a lot of people try to say what others should collect. And, I've probably even been guilty of it at times, or saying that it's stupid to spend money on this, or this. But when it really comes down to it, you have to collect what you love. And that's a cliche thing to say, but if it's not meaningful to you, if it has no meaning, then it's just a piece of cardboard. And it's a lot more fun when it actually does have a meaning to you, and you can be passionate about it, because, then it becomes more than just a card. It's something that has a meaning to you. So.
Very good. Very good. I agree. So congratulations for finding the card. Good on you. And double congratulations for using your powers of manifesting for good and not to steal other people's cookies.
Yeah.
Some people use their powers for evil.
As a bonus, I also I found a red the same night, which is kind of crazy because
it's out of 5, yeah.
I have, and I have this auto, and then there's one back there on that wall, so that's 2 of the red autos, and now I have 2 of the red non-autos, so I have 40% of the reds in existence, so that's pretty awesome.
Fancy, very fancy. But yes, I agree, and I think the sentiment is also well said. The way I've always phrased it, just to give a different take on it, is that I could have a collection, I could have cards that other people would envy or that other people would be impressed by, but I've always thought it made more sense for me to be impressed by it.
Right.
I'm the one
Right.
who needs to
Yep.
be impressed. If I'm not, I could have 52 tops Manals, I could have Babe Ruth, Gaudy Babe Ruths, I could have all these legendary cards, iconic cards of the hobby. But if it's just a checkbox and it doesn't mean a heck of a lot to me, then that isn't great. But if it's something that interests me or something that I'm chasing, to your point, something that I'm chasing, uh, something that's difficult, I think so. I'll just touch on it briefly with this. We use the word grail so cheaply at this point. Uh, to me, it always came down to there should be a quest, there should be a challenge, a chase. It is something that maybe you haven't seen a picture of, or it's out there, but you don't know where, you don't know what corner of the globe it's going to be in, or whatever's going to happen. And it wasn't you were able to snap your fingers and just buy it because it was on eBay, and it's always on eBay and you can get it anytime you want. That's why a 52 tops Mantle, the example I use, it's a super expensive card. It's an iconic card. I think for some, they may feel like a grail. Maybe the quest is getting the money together to get it. It's not that you can't find it. It's that you had to put in the work, the effort, to make it happen for yourself. That's different. Go ahead.
Let me interrupt just for a second on that
Go ahead.
piece alone, because, and I don't want to stir the pot of hobbiness, but a lot of your, we'll call them the purist collectors out there, they would look at a card like that as a grail, but then turn around and say that cards and collecting shouldn't be about the value. When in essence, as you just pointed out, many of those cards, like many of your top iconic cards out there, the only reason they're unobtainable is the value of the card. This, like, I didn't know if I would ever find it. Simply part of the reason, and I love Taylor to death, but let's be honest, he's not the most popular superstar. Somebody could have threw this in a box and said, oh, this is just my common junk box. These cards aren't worth anything, and hauled them off to the landfill and tossed them away. And then even if it had been pulled, it would be never seen again. So that throws another element to it when you're not collecting the most popular guy, because it may never pop up. It could be thrown away just because it's not your common guy that everybody's hunting for. So when I found it, that made it even more exciting, because I've always wondered, would I ever find it? Like, even if it was pulled, did somebody throw it away because he wasn't the top prospect out there or whatever? So, but go ahead to your point. I'm sorry about interrupting, but it's always like the collectors always say it's not about the money, but you make a valid point. Some of these grails is literally only a grail because it's hard to attain because of the money.
Yeah, the way I'm presenting it is, I just want to say that for me, and my goal here isn't to redefine grail for people. You do you. Like, honestly, when it comes to the hobby, I'm a libertarian. I don't care. Whatever you want to do is fine with me, because as long as it doesn't affect what I'm doing, I don't care, guys. Have at it. Have a good time. But my thought always was, if you really want to consider it to be, there should be some kind of friction. So cost could be a source of friction. It could be that you've got a budget and you understand that this is a reach for you. This is a step beyond your normal comfort zone. Well, in order to get there, you're going to have to be able to get past your comfort zone. But then also, maybe you have to save for a time. Maybe you have to flip some cards and put the money together, and it's not easy. Whereas somebody who's just rich can snap their fingers. Again, I use the 52 mana because it's an easy example. It's a card that everybody knows. It's iconic. It's got all that. But for a millionaire, if they just want a copy, they can snap their fingers right now and get 10 offered to them, right? Which one would you like? We can make a phone call and call a couple of dealers or call a couple of high-end collectors that we know. And I promise you, I can put 50 in front of you and you can pick your favorite. And if you've got the money and you're willing to pay, we can get one into your hands today. Like, that's not an issue. So it's not about availability. It's not about the access for the Michael Taylor you have there. It was about availability. Can you even at whatever cost, can you get your hands on it? And then in this situation, you were able to find it, you were able to come to a deal, which is great. So the friction in this case was the scarcity. So the scarcity can be a source of friction. Cost relative to your budget can be a source of friction. And it could just be or maybe Maybe it's not even a cost. Maybe it's not even an availability per se. Maybe you know exactly where the card is and it's sitting in somebody's collection, and you have to find a way to talk them into it. Like maybe you got to work out some kind of a deal, or maybe they need a trade. You know, I'll trade it to you. I'm not going to sell it to you, but I'll trade it to you for this. And that's the one you want. And there's not many available, and you know where it is. It's right in front of you, taunting you. But the only way you can make that deal happen is to wheel and deal. You got to find the right combination of things to make it happen. And if you do, the effort that you had to expend in this. So in this situation, we'll allow effort, Eric. We will allow the effort. But in this situation, if you did, I think that adds to the grail qualifications, if you will. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I have a few that I would have never been able to obtain because people have asked me, is there other Michael Taylor collectors out there? And I probably would. I mean, I think there's probably collectors of every player for the most, maybe not Wander Franco or some other guys, but for the most part, there's probably collectors for most players out there, and more than just one person, right? And I ran into a guy that was actually getting rid of his Taylor PC, and I was able to obtain some that otherwise I would have never gotten. And now they're in my collection. And to your point, if there's another Taylor collector out there, well, now they're probably hunting these same things and they're locked in here. I deal with it. We both know that guy Case Hits Reed. You know, my Robertson collection, I know now, no matter how wealthy I am, or, you know, whatever, if a big or rare Jason Robertson pops up, I know that there is a collector base out there, at least even if it was just him, that's going to be competition on getting those cards. And if you don't get it, it may be buried away. And you probably deal with the same thing with Modano. I don't know if people collect Hal Gill or if Eric has any competition in the Hal Gill market. I think he has all of them. But
he's challenged in the Highlander style contest of cyclocross. He's very serious about this. He will fight them in the cyclocross fields of death.
Yeah, well,
it is true.
Go get them, Eric.
We believe in you.
But yeah, I'm sure that there's Modanos that you wanted to add to your collection and you probably know where they are, but the other collector just won't let them go. And that's part of it, though. And it like, I'm sure you have no hatred unless you just despise the person. But
well, in fairness, Brandon, just as a general course of business, I always have a little hatred in my heart. My love of Schadenfreude is fueled by something, and I am being not only 5% serious, Eric. I'm being 105% serious. It's like there's a deep down inside, in my heart of hearts, Brandon, beats darkness. So there is always a little hatred in my heart. It's like, how dare you defy me? How dare you withhold what is mine? But man of peace. Please continue.
You know, and this is something I would like us to go into a little bit further down the road, and we've discussed like maybe player collecting or team collecting or whatever. And no, this isn't a knock to Eric. This isn't a knock to Eric. He's more focused in the vintage. So the side of like trying to complete some of the stuff in the more modern age probably isn't as impactful to him and what he's collecting. But, you look at some of the stuff today, like this ultra modern stuff, and is it going to be as special for a player collector? Because there is so many different cards that, like, you on your Modano path, you've accomplished a huge portion of that checklist. I don't think a guy, like a collector from today's market, if they picked a rookie over the last couple of years, would ever be able to accomplish completing a player checklist as a player collector.
So as soon as, and I agree, I actually think it's a great topic. I'm going to jot that one down because I think it's a very valid topic. See, maybe next week, since we know that there's going to be no football, maybe this will be the direction we'll continue down this path. But to your point, once the late 90s kicked in and the one of one started happening, the player collector as we knew it, and the completionist player collector died. So in hockey, they died after 97, 98. That season, Pinnacle introduced the printing plates into packs. And the fact that you were able to pull the 1-of-1 printing plates, be that there were 4 colors, as soon as you entered the 1-of-1 into the game, and Upper Deck started doing it in 98, 99 with a bunch of sets, parallels of their various inserts of 1-of-1 versions, that was the end. And we all knew it at the time. As soon as they did that, I'm like, yeah, so only one person could have it. And even the printing plate, you talk about 4 colors. If you got 1 color and I got 1 color, neither one of us will ever be complete unless we fight in the cyclocross fields of death. Like, that's it. That's the only way. We had to come to some kind of an arrangement, because otherwise you can't have them all, because as soon as someone has 1, that's it. There is no other one. So everybody is a stalemate. And as soon as that happened, that was the end of that.
Ah, there she is. The 1-of-1.
Yeah, that is 1-of-1. Exactly. But the point is that as soon as that happens, if someday there is a second Reggie Lemon collector, if there's ever a second, there can only be one, but if there's ever a second, then as long as Eric has that, they can't have it. And that's the point. So that automatically made that situation for the player collector. Automatically.
That's why as soon as I seen this, like I was like giddy and talking to y'all about it, and I had messaged the seller and I hadn't gotten a response. And I'm not gonna lie, I went to the extreme of Beef Supreme from the Discord is up he's a Chicago native, and the seller was what appeared to be a shop in the Illinois area. I even reached out to him. I was like, dude, do you happen to know the owner or who runs this shop? Do you have any contact? Because I need to get in touch with this guy. Because I didn't want it to, like, I didn't know how long it had been listed. I didn't, it had to have been recent. And that was the other crazy part, is just how it popped up after I did that whole reset video. But I was like, I can't let this slip through, because exactly as you said, if there's other collectors out there and they're hunting it as well, and it winds up in their hands, you'll never see it again. And if you do, it's going to be a lot more, because they know the importance of it to you. So that's the fun side to the hobby. It doesn't have to be, the hottest hyped guy, the 5-6 figure ultra modern cards. In fact, I don't even care that it's a PSA 10. It could have been raw, it's not about all of that. Really, that rush and that feeling of excitement, just finding that piece that you've been hunting, that's a hell of a feeling. So
And I think some good words to close in on. So thank you, gentlemen. That was great. Brandon, again, congratulations on the find. Congratulations on the big card. And you see, we can talk about cards again. Why not? What the heck? For a change of pace, figured we'd give it a go.
This reinvigorated me, honestly, to be 100%. This reinvigorated me back into the hobby, because last year I didn't do much. There's a lot of things I don't like about the hobby today. I kind of expressed that in another video I did a couple days ago, but we won't get into that. There's a lot of things that I'm not happy about with it right now. And it's another good reason and cool that this popped up, because it kind of lit that fire under my ass again, to know where I'm supposed to be, know what I was supposed to be doing, and pushing me forward for what I get excited about and what I appreciate. So
very good. Very good. And you guys can check out the video where he talks about that card and gives a little bit of the background. We got a little bit of it here, but you're going to get some of that as well. You can check that out on the Baubles and Ball Cards YouTube channel. I'm going to leave a link in the description to the video in question, where you'll be able to check out the card and get a better view of it. You'll be able to see it a little bit more clearly as well, because we record these in like 720 when we do these video versions. But if you want to check out the video, you'll be able to see it in glorious HD. So you'll be able to check that out. and then you'll be able to get a better look at it. So you can check out Bobbles and Ball Cards and see what Brandon's doing there. 540 Flips, if you like a flipping channel as well. And then Eric Sanderson Door on Instagram, if you want to shake your head in dismay that he would literally steal cookies from the poor people of Detroit. It's very sad.
You know what Eminem has to say about that, right?
Yeah, you're gonna have a rap song written about you, and it ain't gonna be. You think I'm mean? Eminem is a very angry man when he raps. Very angry.
And talks.
You
really
better hope
fast.
those weren't Eminem cookies.
Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. What if it turns out Eminem liked those kind of cookies, Eric? And he's like, well, now I'm double mad. That's it. You're getting a double LP just on you. Just on you. We're gonna have to see. So looking forward to that.
Instead of Stan, it's going to be Eric.
Ooh. Now I've got something to look forward to. This might get exciting real quick, real fast. So I want to thank again AMG Collectibles and AMGcollectibles.ca and the AMG Collectibles YouTube channel for supporting the channel and the podcast. More videos coming up on the YouTube channel as well. By the way, we've got the audio versions out, so you can check that out if you wish. You won't get the glorious visuals. You won't be able to see the card that was shown and everything, but you will be able to hear us if that's your preference. Otherwise, live streams on Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern time, where we are at the bare minimum, I guarantee, at least 5% less mature. And we will have some more words to discuss Eric's cookie stealing exploits. We will discuss that. And also his hex powers that he uses for evil. More on that coming up on the live stream forthcoming. With that said, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you, everybody. And we will catch you in the next one.